The wind screams across the East African savanna with the fury of a wounded beast. It's 1.6 million years ago, and a band of Homo erectus stands at the edge of a limestone overhang, their animal hide wrappings whipping violently in the gale. The monsoon season has arrived 3 weeks early, and the shallow cave that sheltered them for generations is now a death trap. Water cascades from the cliff face above, flooding their refuge with bone-chilling torrents. But here's where everything changes. The group's leader, a weathered individual with scars mapping a lifetime of survival, doesn't retreat deeper into the failing cave. Instead, those experienced hands gesture toward the open grassland, toward a cluster of acacia trees 200 meters away. The others hesitate. Abandoning natural shelter seems like madness. Yet the rising water at their feet tells a different story. They have perhaps 2 hours before nightfall, when the temperature will plummet and the predators will emerge. This is the moment when humanity stops being merely opportunistic cave dwellers and becomes something far more dangerous: builders. The group moves with urgent purpose through the torrential rain. Every member carries their role encoded in collective memory. Some strip branches from fallen acacias, selecting pieces with specific angles and flexibility. Others gather armfuls of tall savanna grass, their hands working with practiced efficiency despite the punishing elements. There's no written blueprint, no spoken instruction manual. This knowledge lives in their muscles, passed down through countless generations of trial, error, and desperate innovation. The first challenge hits immediately. The ground is saturated, turning to mud beneath their feet. A simple lean-to would collapse under its own weight in this soup. But watch what happens next. The builders drive sharpened branches deep into the earth at precise angles, creating a circular foundation pattern that distributes weight across multiple pressure points. This isn't random. This is engineering. As darkness creeps across the horizon, something moves in the tall grass beyond their construction site. A massive shape, low and muscular. A pack of dinophiles, those saber-toothed predators with jaws designed to crush bone. Their yellow eyes reflect the dying light, calculating, patient. The cats understand what the humans are doing, creating a stationary target. The clock isn't just ticking toward nightfall anymore. It's counting down to an attack. 2 members of the group continue weaving grass into tight bundles while the others accelerate the framework construction. Here's the brutal mathematics of prehistoric survival. The shelter must be completed before the predators decide the humans are vulnerable enough to strike. Sweat mixes with rain on weathered faces. Hands move faster, selecting branches, lashing them together with strips of bark fiber twisted into cordage. Then the structure begins to take shape. Not a simple lean-to, but something revolutionary: a dome. The curved frame emerges from the chaos, branches interlocking at the apex in a pattern that redirects wind force around the structure rather than against it. The dinophiles edge closer, their muscular shoulders rolling with predatory confidence. 50 meters, 40, the lead cat's lips curl back, revealing those devastating fangs. The humans don't run. They can't, not yet. The shelter is 70% complete, and abandoning it now means exposure, hypothermia, death. Instead, they feed the predator's hesitation with coordinated movement, sharp sounds, the illusion of unified strength. It's a bluff, and everyone knows it. 30 meters. The grass bundles are being lashed to the dome frame now, overlapping like scales, creating a water-shedding skin that channels rain away from the interior. 20 meters. The technique is brilliant. Each bundle is secured at the top, but loose at the bottom, allowing air circulation while maintaining waterproof integrity. This isn't shelter. This is architecture that understands fluid dynamics. 15 meters. The largest Dinofelis tenses, haunches coiling for the killing sprint. And then, the humans dive inside their completed dome, dragging the final armfuls of dried grass they'd been hoarding. Hands work in the darkness, piling the grass into a thick insulating layer on the ground. The entrance, deliberately positioned downwind, is partially sealed with a woven grass mat weighted with stones. The predators circle, growling, testing, but the structure holds a secret advantage: no clear attack point. The curved walls offer no purchase for claws. The entrance is too small for the massive cats to charge through without getting stuck. The dome's low profile makes it nearly invisible from a distance, blending into the landscape. As the night deepens and the temperature drops toward freezing, something unexpected happens inside that grass dome. It becomes warm. The human's body heat, trapped by the layered grass insulation and reflected by the curved walls, raises the interior temperature by 15 degrees. Outside, the wind shrieks and the rain hammers the savanna. The Dinofelis eventually abandon their vigil, seeking easier prey. And inside this engineered marvel built in under 2 hours with no metal tools, no nails, no modern materials, a group of Homo erectus discovers something that will change our species forever: the power to create our own environment. But this is just the beginning. Because across the next 100,000 years, as climate convulsions rack the planet, as ice ages descend and volcanic winters block out the sun, humans will take this fundamental insight and push it to astonishing extremes. Fast forward 800,000 years. The location, the wind-scoured steppes of what will become Ukraine. The temperature, minus 30 degrees Celsius. The inhabitants, Homo heidelbergensis, the bridge species between Homo erectus and modern humans, facing perhaps the most hostile environment our ancestors ever called home. And they're building with bones, mammoth bones to be precise. The skeletal remains of the Ice Age's most iconic giants, transformed into construction material that makes modern engineering look fragile by comparison. Picture this: a clearing in the frozen grassland, where a group of heavily wrapped hunters approaches a wind-sculpted drift of snow. Beneath that drift lies their building supply, a mammoth graveyard created when a herd fell through thin ice 3 winters ago. The effort required is staggering. Each mammoth skull weighs over 200 pounds. The femurs stretch longer than a tall human. The jawbones curve like natural arches. But these builders have studied the material properties of bone: its compressive strength, its resistance to moisture, its insulating capacity when properly assembled. They're about to construct a dwelling that will last 15,000 years. The foundation goes down first, a circular arrangement of mammoth skulls. On top of this base, the long bones are stacked in an interlocking pattern, femurs and tibias creating a conical framework that rises 4 meters high. The engineering is sophisticated. Each bone is positioned to transfer weight to the foundation, with the natural curves creating structural arches that can support immense loads. But here's where it gets fascinating. Between the bone framework, the builders pack a mixture of moss, grass, and earth, creating an insulated composite wall with an R value that would impress modern architects. The exterior is then covered with mammoth hides, layered and overlapping, secured to the bone frame with cordage threaded through existing foramina in the skulls. Inside, a carefully constructed hearth occupies the center, not just a pile of wood, but an engineered fireplace with a smoke hole positioned at the apex of the dome, creating natural convection that pulls smoke upward while retaining heat. The walls are thick enough that the exterior surface can be coated with ice in a -40 blizzard, while the interior remains above freezing. This is climate control without electricity. This is HVAC, designed by humans who had never seen a thermometer. The structure can house 12 adults comfortably, with designated sleeping platforms arranged around the perimeter, raised on bone frameworks to keep inhabitants above the cold ground. And when archaeologists excavate these structures in the late 20th century, they'll find them still standing, still intact, having weathered 15,000 winters without maintenance. But the Ice Age bone homes reveal something even more profound than their engineering excellence. Inside these structures, away from the killing cold, something unprecedented begins to happen. With stable shelter comes stable community. With protection from the elements comes time. Time to think, to create, to imagine. On the walls of ancient mammoth-bone dwellings, archaeologists found something incredible: art, ochre paintings, and carved bone fragments. This wasn't just about survival, it was about creating a space where human culture could flourish. This is when home became the foundation of civilization itself. Fast forward 30,000 years to the forests of what is now Germany. The Ice Age is ending, and the climate is chaotic. For the fully modern humans living there, their animal hide tents, perfect for the open tundra, were death traps in the forest. A single ember from a cooking fire could incinerate their entire camp in seconds. They needed a new solution, something that wouldn't burn. What they came up with would be used for the next 10,000 years across every continent: the Earth Lodge. Here's how they did it. First, they dug a precise circular depression, about 1 meter deep and 6 meters across, piling the excavated earth in a ring around it. Then, they drove sturdy logs into the ground at the pit's edge, bending them inward to form a dome-like skeleton. But here's the game-changing innovation. Instead of using flammable hides or grass, they packed the excavated earth onto a lattice of woven branches, creating walls 30 centimeters thick. For the final touch, they covered it all with cut sod, grass side out. This sod didn't just prevent erosion, it kept growing, turning the entire structure into a living home that grew stronger over time. The result was a home that was fireproof, waterproof, and practically invisible from a short distance. Inside, the temperature remained constant all year round, thanks to the Earth's natural thermal mass. A tunnel entrance kept out wind and rain, while also creating a defensive choke point against predators. Hollow log ventilation shafts brought in fresh air and let smoke out through natural convection. The real test came during a wildfire. As flames tore through the forest, the group huddled inside their Earth Lodge, listening to the roar of destruction. When they emerged hours later into a landscape of charcoal and ash, their home stood untouched. The earth had absorbed the heat, the sod covering prevented cracking, and the internal temperature had barely risen. This was a profound realization. They didn't just have to adapt to their environment. They could create micro-environments adapted to them. This knowledge spread like wildfire. In Middle Eastern deserts, people built with sun-dried mud bricks, creating thick-walled homes that stayed cool in scorching heat. In tropical forests, they built elevated platforms from bamboo to escape floods and predators. In the Arctic, they developed the igloo, a marvel of engineering built from compressed snow. Each block was cut so precisely that the entire dome was self-supporting. The interior could be 30 degrees warmer than the minus 50-degree blizzard raging outside. Perhaps the most sophisticated example appears back in the Rift Valley of East Africa. Here, modern Homo sapiens, with generations of building experience, created not just a single structure, but an integrated community, the compound settlement. Multiple dwellings were arranged in defensive circles, connected by covered walkways, and surrounded by living fences of thorny acacia. There were specialized huts for sleeping, cooking, and storage. They even had advanced water management, with channels carved into rock to direct rainfall into covered cisterns. This wasn't just a camp, it was urban planning. The defensive capabilities were extraordinary. The thornbush perimeter was impassable to predators, and elevated watchtowers provided 360-degree visibility. When hyenas probed at night, they found no weakness. When rival groups approached, they saw a fortified community that would be costly to attack. But what happened inside these protected spaces was truly revolutionary. Every night, the community gathered. Stories were told, not just for entertainment, but as a way to pass on vital survival information. An elder would demonstrate how to bend acacia branches for maximum strength. Another showed the finger-weaving pattern for waterproof grass bundles. This was technology transfer. This was education. The shelters weren't just protecting bodies. They were protecting knowledge, allowing complex information to be preserved and passed down. Today, when survival experts try to replicate these shelters with period-appropriate tools, they're stunned by the sophistication required. Our ancestors weren't primitive. They were specialists operating at the peak of their technological capacity. And here's what's amazing. Every principle they discovered remains valid today. The structural efficiency of dome shapes, the value of thermal mass, natural ventilation, and passive climate control. Modern architects are rediscovering these techniques, calling them earth-sheltered housing, passive solar design, and biomimetic architecture. Think about it. A modern house, abandoned for 50 years, becomes a ruin. A mammoth-bone dwelling remains structurally sound after 15,000 years. An earth lodge can function for generations with zero upkeep. What does that tell us about who the real masters were? The story of primitive shelters isn't just about how far we've come. It's about how much we've forgotten. It's a call to reconnect with the principles that allowed our species to thrive in every corner of the planet. Every time you see a homeless encampment built from salvaged materials, or someone builds an off-grid cabin, they are channeling millions of years of accumulated building wisdom. These fundamental human skills never disappeared. They're encoded in us, just waiting. Learn to build, not just with power tools, but with your hands, with natural resources, and with a deep understanding of structure. You're reconnecting with the most fundamental human skill, the ability to create shelter, safety, and home. Because when modern systems fail, these techniques remain. The knowledge that allowed humans to survive ice ages is your birthright. Claim it, study it, practice it. The next time you're sheltering from a storm in your comfortable home, remember that your ancestors did the same with grass, earth, and bone. And their shelters still stand as monuments to human ingenuity. That's not primitive, that's mastery. What primitive building technique will you try first? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper into the ancestral skills that shaped our survival, hit that subscribe button. This journey is just beginning. Thank you for watching.